Yes.
In terms of works done by this, in terms of the work done, are they more inclined towards the fiqh side, the fiqh side, or the kalam and the side towards Sufism, the Sufism, leading tariqah?
Yes.
For these cases.
Okay. Well, these are very good. That's a very good question. As our brother has rightly framed it, when it comes to being a Muslim scholar, either you are a faqih or a jurist, or you are a mutakallim, a theologian, or you are a sufi. That means to say in the sense of which aspect of the religion you preponderate over. This owes, I suppose, your being inclined to one aspect as opposed to another owes to the very possibility, its possibility owes to the second hadith in the 40 hadith collection, yes, the Islam, Iman dan Ihsan. According to the report, when Jibril alayhi salam came to meet the Prophet and asked him to deliberate and discuss the nature and answer the meaning of Islam, which involves external worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, including profession by the tongue that of His oneness and that Prophet Muhammad is His messenger. There is the second element, the Iman aspect, which deals in the articles of belief. And then thirdly, there is Ihsan, whose focus is changing your being so that you become aware and conscious always of God's existence and God's observation of you, as such that it changes your reality in that sense. So scholars in these traditions have always been either 1, 2 or 3. But there are amongst the scholars in our tradition certain marvels like Imam Al-Ghazali, in which he is equally adept in all 3 disciplines, independently, as well as the 3 disciplines being joined within an integrative framework in the Ihya Ulumuddin. Yes, Imam Al-Ghazali successfully integrated between the sciences of jurisprudence, al-fiqh, kalam, which involves articles of belief, and tasawwuf, which involves refinements of the soul. In the Ihya Ulumuddin, you will see that the first book is the book of knowledge, and the book of knowledge deals with philosophical questions, deals with epistemological questions, deals with moral questions. And in the second book, the book of the Qawaidul Aqaid, on the articles of belief, he performs his role, he reprises his role as the mutakallim. But in the later works, or rather in the first quarter and the second quarter, he acts in an integrative function between the faqih in him and the Ahl Tasawwuf in him. He explores the secrets of salah in the tasawwuf sense of the word, but he does not leave anything wanting in the fiqh sense of the word. So on and so forth, to the discussions on marriage, friendship, all these things he explores using the tasawwuf as well as the fiqh discussion. But as he goes higher and higher into the third and the fourth quarter, now he deals with abstract matters of the heart and the spirit. So Imam Al-Ghazali is able to integrate between these 3 disciplines. And this integrative Fardu Ain movement that Imam Al-Ghazali initiated would then influence the rest of the history of the Islamic intellectual tradition, particularly in this part of the world. Also in Hadramaut, which really influenced this part of the world, such that secondarity, as we said, in this part of the world does not involve only the department of language, but also secondarity in the sense of intellectual tradition. So the secondarity of language we owe to the Arabic of the Quran. The secondarity of Islamic intellectual tradition we owe to the tradition of Makkah and Hadramaut. And Makkah and Hadramaut at that time was deeply influenced by the works and writings of Imam Al-Ghazali, which combined in him the fiqh, tasawwuf, and the aqidah part. There was, of course, in between the 15th and the 17th century, a period in which, although the writings of Al-Ghazali were studied and written, yet the primary scholar, shall we say, that became the reference point for many of the debates, at least of the highest level, was Ibn Arabi. You will see in the writings of Al-Fansuri, in the writings of Al-Raniri, in the writings of Shamsuddin Sumatrani, Yusuf Makassari, all these major scholars of between the 15th and the 17th centuries, the major focus of their writings is on the problem of existence. That was because conversion is not an easy matter. Yes, when you want to convert into Islam, the easiest part will be the bodily aspect. You teach someone to do the prayer. You teach someone to do the zakat. That doesn't involve deep changes in the mind. But supposing you're talking to somebody whose conception of existence is always embodied, for example, that everything that exists within a time continuum and a space continuum. It will be very difficult to describe to him that God, as the originator of existence, is not bound by space and time. That God is not like anything in existence. It is not temporally nor spatially located. Now that will require deep and abstract discussions, and that was what happened. I mean, when the conversion of the spirit took place, these really advanced scholars became the source of inspiration of the writings of the scholars in this part of the world. Fansuri, Raniri, Makassari, they were all writing on these topics. But once the conversion of the spirit has taken place, the gear, shall we say, is more relaxed. By the time you get to Syekh Abdul Samad Palembang in the 18th and the 19th centuries, Al-Bugisi, Al-Banjari, when you read the writings of these scholars, Al-Fatani, although traces of that discussion still remains, but a lot of them has already said that it is no longer required to study the metaphysical and the ontological treatises of this highest nature, because the most important is to focus on the ethical aspect. And during this period also, there was a very strong influence coming from Makkah. A lot of these scholars, the five scholars I mentioned just now in the 18th and the 19th century, they take inspiration at this time from the writers and the scholars writing in Makkah. And at that time, the works of Imam Al-Haddad was also prominent. So you will see these traces in the writings of Syekh Abdul Samad Palembang. But needless to say, if there was one scholar to be named as the most influential scholar in this part of the world during that period onwards, is Imam Al-Ghazali. Yes, that's why the Ihya was translated as the Siyar Salikin in compressed form. The Bidayatul Hidayah was translated. The Minhajul Abidin was translated. The Ayyuhal Walad was translated. So either in the translation sense of the word, sometimes it's a translation plus commentary. It continued. And when these scholar kings mentioned that I mentioned just now, and by now the survey has come to the 21st century or the 20th century, when we are now meeting with the Western scholars, Imam Al-Ghazali's role was still prominent. So that's why you will see in both the writings of Sultan Iskandar Shah, Sultan Sulaiman Shah, a very careful blend of the three. They are scholars whose tradition is of the integrative Fardu Ain sciences, in which fiqh, tasawwuf and aqidah are not discussed separately. If they are separated, it is only for the purpose of distinction, or rather for the purpose of discourse. But when they are taught together. Nobody should be a Muslim on fiqh grounds alone. Yes, they held on to the statement attributed to Imam Malik. Yes, whoever, it says, man tasawwafa walam tafaqqaha. Yes, whoever takes the path of tasawwuf but does not take the path of tafaqquh, that means to say to deepen his knowledge of religion in the Sharia sense of the word, it is said faqad tazandaqa. He becomes liable to, shall we say, the problems of ilhad, atheism. He becomes liable to the problems of being a false and deviant Sufi. However, conversely, وَمَنْ تَفَقَّهَ وَلَمْ تَسَوَّفَ, on the other hand, he who merely masters fiqh, who only focuses his entire attention of the study of religion on fiqh matters, فَقَدْ تَفَسَّقَ, he becomes a fasik. That means to say, despite knowing all the rulings of the religion, he is at heart a restless soul. He is at heart a bitter soul. He does not perform nor does what he is supposed to do. And if he is a scholar, he suffers from the sicknesses of the soul, such as envy, arrogance, and the rest of the the things that corrupt the soul. And whoever combines within these two has reached then utter perfection. And these kings were people who integrated all these three. And needless to say that the Ihya Ulumuddin, shall we say, is the formula of success of the Malay world that has been able to keep these islands, as diverse as they were many, within a singular structure of fiqh, tasawwuf and aqidah. And furthermore, they are able to renew that spirit from now and then, such that Professor Naqib Al-Attas has described it in the Historical Fact and Fiction, that the very beating heart of this civilization is the process of Islamization. And the beating heart of this Islamization, of this civilization, where Islamization is concerned, is to renew the process. Whenever you find that a significant portion or a number of the people have deviated from the origins of the path, it will be renewed. And the works that were written to renew this has this element in it, the integrity function.